What's happening?
What's up, guys? Time for one of our favorite whiskeys ever. Malt reviews.
Springbank, our favorite distillery because of bottles like this.
Yes.
This is the Springbank 12-year-old, 100 proof. The Green Thistle. Red capsule here up at the top. And this is the Velier bottling.
Double dark for Velier.
And it is
It's the darkest one. The darkest one we own.
Yeah, it is extremely, extremely dark. And we have been fortunate enough to try so many different versions of these older Springbank. This Italian import Velier is an absolute masterpiece.
Yeah, and as always, we find Velier is usually some of the best whiskeys ever bottled and imported.
It for sure is.
And this is the 50% version.
50% version. Comes in a simple box like this back in the 90s.
So keep in mind when they water it down with underproof 35 to 40-year-old whiskey, they're using quite a bit more.
These
to go down to 50% versus 57%.
So just to be clear, these darker Vattings of the old 50% 12-year-olds, the ones released in the 90s. The dark ones are the ones that are very well known for having that 35 to 40-year-old juice to bring the ABV down. So let's say it's cask strength.
And heavily sherried.
Cask strength at 60-something.
Yep.
You're using 35 to 40-year-old whiskey to bring it down to 50% ABV. It is the darker versions, and it is the 50% version that's known for that. Not saying that doesn't exist in the lighter version, and it doesn't exist in the 57% ABV ones. But these are the ones that are known for having a ton of that really, really older juice.
Definitely more of.
And when you nose this and you taste this whiskey, it's like, how could it possibly be 12? It does taste and smell like a 40-year-old
But I will
whiskey.
tell you, the very first one we did of this was
when you said the review, you're saying
the Springbank 1200 proofs.
Yes,
is a 57% version, and there's also no way that's only 12 years old.
It's just magic.
So, but on to this bad boy.
Yes,
this is our favorite one on the nose.
I love how we're telling them it's our favorite one before the review even starts, but it's all good.
Well, there's so many, just trying to differentiate.
Yeah.
And we fairly recently did the single dark USA, the lighter bourbon influence one, gave it a 94. So, I mean, they're all epic.
Mike, this is the essence of old school sherried Springbank. It is as good as sherried whiskey gets. It's the kind of whiskey where you don't really need to give notes. I think you're better off just talking about what an epic whiskey it is, because I could sit here and name you thousands of desserts and thousands of fruits. It's also rich. It's also danky. And I would have to imagine there's some Paxaret magic involved here for this kind of richness and this kind of amazingness, from cooked down red fruits to even tropical kind of fresh fruits. And then you go to these just luscious jams, and then you go to tons of kind of custard-like desserts and just epic, and then you start going into the tobaccos, and that kind of stuff coming along with the aged elements, and it just takes you everywhere.
Yeah, well, this definitely, like you just nailed it. This brings the best of Springbank bourbon influence, crazy juicy tropical fruits, with the best of old school sherry influence. But the biggest thing I get just thinking about this is, recently, right? Springbank, it's gone nuts. The Springbank craze, you can't find it anywhere, and everyone talks about the modern, I'll call it, Springbank funk. I just wish that everybody that likes Springbank could try old school Springbank like this, the old school Springbank, the real Springbank funk.
Yeah.
Once you experience that and you know that, there's nothing like it in whiskey.
Yeah.
And that's why we fell in love. That's why it's our favorite distillery.
Yeah, and I'll try to kind of add to what you're saying. I could sit here and give millions of notes, but I'm gonna kind of try to sum it down to its main kind of notes, and also describe what we think of old school Springbank funk to be. It's not easy, but
It's not. It's you have to experience.
yeah,
it.
you have to experience it,
So
but
hard to put in words.
but it's essentially this honey mustard vinaigrette
Sherry vinaigrette, yeah.
It's a rich honey. It's this funky mustard,
Funky.
and it's this sweet,
Funky exotic sweet mustard.
and it's this sweet sherried, funky, dunnagey kind of
But
vinaigrette.
also underground, danky, dark, dunnagey.
Yes.
For sure.
So honey,
Humid.
honey mustard sherried vinaigrette, and it's aged, and it's funky and
But then
dunnagey.
also mention,
Yeah.
you came up with this word, the rust.
Yes.
It gets to the point it's so concentrated, it becomes like rusty. Like
Yes.
it won't come off.
Yes.
That's nailing it.
The sherry, and that's where we're
Sherry,
like,
rusty funk.
yeah, and that's why it's like, what kind of cask was this actually aged in? What kind of incredible casks was this aged in? And what kind of age was put on this? What kind of barley was used? What kind of luscious yeast was into this
my
distillate?
God. Yeah.
Right, and it's so oily, and it gets funky, it gets earthy, it gets mushroomy, it gets grassy, it gets all that, but it's the ultimate experience. It's the ultimate experience of that honey mustard kind of sherry vinaigrette element, and that's the best way to describe this, and that's the magic.
And it does, they're really like black Springbanks, literally black like mud. I get like heavy, earthy forest floor mud. It has some of that in there, but never too much. Some of those really, really black Springbanks might be a little too much. So it's got everything Springbank has to offer, but it's all about the core. The honey mustard sherry vinaigrette, heavy cola. Oh, that
But
funk.
it's honey mustard sherry vinaigrette, but those cooked down red fruits.
Yeah. So I mean, like
it's
that's the
jammy
core,
and it's-
but
yeah.
this has everything.
But
in
it's rich, like someone who's not familiar with the honey mustard. Maybe if you sit next to them and you tell them, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm getting that."
Yeah, yeah.
But blindly, they just go in and they're not used to it.
Right.
They're probably going to focus more on the cooked down fruits and the
Absolutely.
rich
You're
jammy
very
fruits.
right. I might not even get to that.
They will if you tell them, because it's very there.
Right.
It's very much there, but they're not used to looking
Exactly.
for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Not tuned to it
Yeah.
because this literally has everything. Oh no, like cooked down strawberries, raspberries, blackberries for days. And then even on the periphery, the bourbon Springbank fruits, like the single dark we did, the juicy apricots, the peaches, the pears, the plums.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's even got like a black licorice note in there that that you get in like old school bourbons.
Yeah. Got the tobacco, like you said. It's just these 12-year 100 proofs, there's so much variation. And Gordon Wright, the nephew at the time, was just experimenting with so many different casks and older ages where this particular variation just seems like it's the perfect mix. Obviously, super heavily sherried old school shit, but just the perfect balance of everything to show you what Springbank truly is.
Mike, I can name
It's
so
nuts.
many more things. There's just like
Nuts.
there's like a 200-year-old Grand Marnier in here. There is
Oh, yeah.
from the orange oils to this like almost like black cherry, but that's almost gone further than black. Like it's just danky. So much dankiness. There's a danky cola. We haven't even mentioned the cola.
Well, are you getting like the Rancio from the 1,000-year-old cognac in here?
Yes, Rancio.
It's that funk.
Yeah, it's the cognac Rancio. When you've actually had a cognac that's been aged for 100 years, that kind of style, yeah. I said Grand Marnier because of the orange oils that are coming from that cognac.
Like remember that one time we're in Vegas and they said they had a Hardy cognac that was made in 1776.
Remember?
And there was one in the Louvre in France, And one, I don't know how, it was like Andre's or some shitty restaurant, but how they got it, but it's like that. It's like multi-100-year-old cognac, you'd imagine, the dankiness, the funk of it, the rancio. Oh, the mold. We always joke, like all we want is moldy fruits. It's like moldy, rusty fruits, but the best kind of quality of fruits.
Yeah.
Every fruit.
It's rusty, it's moldy, it's funky, it's earthy, it's fruity.
Yeah.
Enough.
Musk.
Yeah. And you start thinking like Japanese funky teas, like if you've ever had like, you know, you get like a black tea with some kind of fruit, a green tea with some kind of fruit, and you walk into a tea store and they're kind of fancy and they're, you know, you want to try it as a one-time purchase. Any kind of tea like that you've had, you know, you start getting these exotic teas in here, and then, you know, you start thinking Japanese kind of stuff coming along, and
Japanese rainforest,
it's just insane. It's absolute insane perfection, and it is a whiskey that you want to get to know because we've had so much of it. We truly know it, and then, you know, it's not one of those whiskey you just want to have a sample and never try again. Yeah,
gotta live it. Palate?
Anyways, let's do Palate, or else it's gonna go forever, brother.
Yes, sir.
Amazing. So tasty. It's so tasty. That's so tasty. So much of that tea, right? Mango tea.
Dude, how is like a regular...
And you would think that it's going to be more drying based on how moldy and rusty it is on the nose. And then it becomes luscious. It's actually luscious. You're actually getting like peach tea and mango tea. And I say tea because that drying element in the background and that slight bittery aspect, but then it's so fruity like a mango coming through.
How can a regular like 12-year-old 100 proof be like one of the best Springbanks ever, man? This is crazy.
Is insane.
This is crazy.
This is very important. It's true. You have to
get to know
like
that. The oak is translating to a beautiful exotic tea.
Yeah.
But those crazy fruits are on the foreground still, so it combines.
Yeah.
But it's like almost like a juicy mango tea. Like it's juicy and it's tea-ish.
So I get a lot of like, I just burped. That honey mustard comes out.
The honey mustard.
The honey mustard, the white gummies, the white pineapple gummies.
Oh yeah.
With the mango tea, peach tea. I love this honey mustard note. And I'm not a guy that actually eats honey mustard, but in whiskey
this
form.
Is like the only
in whiskey form
version.
Yeah.
Where it's the best.
And that vinaigrette, that sherried vinaigrette, that's so much more prominent on the nose than the palate, but it's on the palate as well. It's a masterclass in old school sherry, and it's absolutely it's different. It's stunning.
When we say vinaigrette, even on the nose, because like the way that vinaigrette has that like acidic aromatic quality to it, where it lingers and breathes, that's what it is. But just remember, what really like blew our minds the very first time about Springbank was the very first one we did at the 12-year 100 proof, the 57% version for Valier as well. And I remember, and you know, this was early in the journey. We had no clue, but it was that finish, that like honey mustard, almost like licorice.
Lost our mind.
Finish.
Yes.
It wouldn't go away. Like all fucking night.
Yeah, it's
and it's just, that's the biggest thing about it.
Yeah. There were certain
so addictive.
Certain whiskeys where we were willing to open up credit cards to go in whiskey debt for. And Old Springbank was part of that.
Yeah, at least for us. We both agree that note especially is just so addictive.
Whew. Let's try to wrap up the review because it's like 30 minutes.
Yeah. It's just, please, if you have any chance at all, try it. It's a masterpiece.
Endless finish. It's so much more luscious. It's more luscious on the palate. You think it'd be way more drying and less fruity. It's actually dankier on the nose, more moldy, more rusty, more funky, and more lusciousy mango-like.
It's opposite.
Papaya. Look, this is like
Springbank.
yeah,
Perfect. Perfect.
I will say this: if you are looking to buy one of these on auction, number one, be careful. Do your research. Make sure it's legit, because they are heavily faked.
Wow.
Number two, this is a Velier import. It says so here in the back. And you can judge these. They're all different. Every single bottle we've had, they're always all different.
All different.
They range from very good to absolutely stunning. They've all been very good. So you can't go wrong. But I also can't promise you that you go and buy one of these and it's going to be this. Okay? So that's the downside. They're all different. That's why we're always looking to get more. And that's why we have like 10, 12-year-old Springbanks open, because
I will say the rule, though, darker the better.
it darker the more you get to these like aged elements. But if you are the kind of person who prefers a bourbon matured whiskey over sherried whiskey, and that's your style, then you might enjoy the lighter, more delicate style as well. Right. But yeah, overall.
But to get to that nasty, dirty, rusty, moldy, should be a legal funk.
Old school, Springbank sherry. We always joke around that we were talking about Springbank funk 7 years ago on our channel when no one was mentioning it.
And now it's a thing.
Yeah. But
different. The old school funk, the real Springbank funk.
Yeah.
Nuts. So, go dark, go Italian, Velier, if you can.
Yeah, it's hard to find an Italian. You can find UK versions of this, the USA Double Dark, very famous whiskey. You can find different versions. They're all epic. You don't have to specifically find this Velier. It just happens to be our favorite one.
Yeah.
Score, Mike?
This one's tough. This is the best it's ever been. It's all relative.
You think it's the best it's ever been?
I think it's best it's ever been.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not there with you in terms of the best it's ever been, but I think it's just always epic. But it's not now better than it was before for me. But I like that it's that for you.
It's always epic, but this is like reaching different levels.
I love that.
So it's not going to reach a full new point from what it's always been for me. It's always been a 96 for me. It's staying 96. It's like 96.5 relative, but it's getting close to 97. But relative to 97s, it's 96. But it's always been 96.
The reason why
it's still the best it's ever been.
For me, it's a 96 as well. But I have a different perspective on why it's 96. There are whiskeys that are, I think for it to get to 96 normally, it has to be complex in like a different kind of way. It tends to be usually where whiskeys are a little bit more peated, where it just goes into different stratospheres, right?
Super unique, complicated,
just way out there unique.
Yeah.
And that's usually when you get into the 96 territory, where I think this whiskey is a 96 just because it is very, 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 very complex, but it doesn't do as many nutty things as some of like the Bullmores and like Lefroy, and even the Springbank Samaroli, where those go. So I can't really go higher than 96. It's a 96.
Right, because of that.
But because of that. In terms of, if I'm stranded on an island, will I take this over maybe a whiskey that's 97?
Pure enjoyment?
Will I just want this stranded alone on an island?
Yes.
Yes. I might even take this over something that's a 97.
It's our favorite note.
Yeah. Just because I love this whiskey that much.
It's our favorite
It's
notes.
Absolutely, it's just so epic.
It's our jam.
Yeah. So yeah, this is truly a stunning whiskey. It's a 96. I don't think I can ever go higher than that because to me it's almost more like if I want to factor in from a technical standpoint, it's probably a 95, but my enjoyment takes it to a 96. Right. So that's kind of where I'm at. Only because we've gotten to try all those Samarolis and some of these crazy Bullmores and
nutty shit.
Yeah. It just that goes into another stratosphere in terms of technically for a whiskey, but my enjoyment bumps this from a 95 to a 96.
No, I know.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, only because we're exposed to like some of the the top 20, 10 on whiskey base.
Yes.
Had we not tried those,
Had we not tried it, it'd be
Probably
99.
best we ever had. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
No.
It's fucking amazing.
Anyways, we've been wanting to do this review for a very long time. We haven't done it yet, and it is our favorite of the 50% or 57%
Yes.
Springbanks.
Any of the 12-year 100 proofs, either 100 proof UK or 100 proof USA.
We still haven't done Springbank Samaroli. That will come in the future.
Correct.
Cheers.
Cheers.